Thank you. Folks, you're all very welcome to the full council. Today I'm going to ask John now, please, to take the roll. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, members. To all members of Derry City and Strabane District Council, you're hereby summoned to the monthly meeting of the council to be held in the Guildhall, Wednesday the 24th of April at 2 o'clock. And starting with the roll call members, Alderman Cook.
Apologies, John, she's off.
Alderman Guy. Your job. Alderman Hussey. Right. Alderman Carrigan.
He's at a funeral. I'll be here as soon as he can.
Alderman McMorris. Okay. Alderman Middleton.
Here, John.
Alderman Montgomery. Alderman Wilkinson. Here, John. Councillor Jason Barr. Here's up. Councillor Lillian Barr.
It's on.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs.
Shaw John.
Councillor Boyle. Councillor Clark.
Sure.
Councillor Cusick.
Here, John.
Councillor Deeney.
Sure.
Councillor Devine.
Sure.
Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy.
Shaw.
Councillor Sandra Duffy.
Sure.
Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Fleming.
Shaw.
Councillor Gallagher.
Shaw.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
Apologies from Councillor Hart.
Councillor Heaney.
Shaw.
Councillor Hutton.
Sure.
Councillor Jackson.
Shaw.
Councillor Leonard.
Shaw.
Councillor Logue.
Sure.
Councillor McDaid.
Yeah.
Councillor McGinley.
Sure.
Councillor McHugh.
Shaw.
Councillor Mooney.
Here.
Councillor Murphy.
Oh.
Councillor Norris.
We're here presently, John. Just running late.
Councillor O'Farrell.
Shaw John.
Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. And Councillor Nevis.
Sure.
Thank you, members.
Let's just pass by. Thank you, John. I'm just going to read the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone present at this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you are seated at the lower public seating media areas, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. By entering the council chamber and using the press or lower public seating area, you are consenting to be filmed and consenting to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. If you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. A copy of the council's privacy notice may be found on the council's website, www.derrystrabane.com. Is there any declarations of members' interests? No. We'll just go on now to chairperson's business. I have been notified by 4 councillors. If I have left anybody out, please just let me know now. It's Paul Boggs, Sandra Duffy, Fergal Leonard and Sean Harkin. No one else? That's great. So I'll start off with my own chairperson's business, and I want to just convey our condolences to the ex-mayor Liam Bradley on the sudden passing of his wife Marie, and I will get a card sent out for that. The second part, I just want to invite the new Taoiseach up, given the comments that he made, which were highly offensive to many people on this island regarding his generation been more familiar with Berlin and Paris and even London than rather Derry and Belfast. I think it would be right and fitting to offer him an invite up to Derry so that he can familiarise himself with this part of the country. Okay. The third thing, I just want to first of all congratulate the team, all those who were involved in putting the jazz program together. It's going to be a great lineup, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And I just want to remind you all that in conjunction with the charities, the Foyle Hospice and the Ryan McBride Foundation, we are trying to beat the world record of rock the boat on Shipty Street on Saturday, the 4th of May, between 11:30 and 12:30. You can register online or on the day. So I would encourage you all, please come along and support that initiative. Lastly, on behalf of myself, I want to congratulate everyone and teams who have competed or won during the past month. However, in whatever sport or field or whatever, however, I feel there's one person that really needs singled out. And I hope I'm not being biased, but that's Councillor Paul Boggs, who, for anybody who attended the Mayor's Giddy Up at the Guildhall last Saturday, Paul really done himself proud, and I think he's lost his vocation. He should really be a jockey. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Paul now. So if you, okay, hope it doesn't embarrass you.
Good, Mayor, and it's maybe the national it'll be at next year. But Mayor, young people are leaving this island in their droves to seek better opportunities elsewhere in Canada, Australia, America, and various other locations across the globe. The harsh reality of the negative impact of partition has caused horror for public services, where many languish on hospital waiting lists, where people have to live in the box room of their parents' house, and where opportunities to thrive are few and far between. The new Taoiseach, Simon Harris, is out of touch with young people on this island and our desire for real change in a new Ireland. I therefore have a short proposal that we write to the Taoiseach, reiterating Council's long-standing position on the need to establish a Citizens' Assembly to allow for planning and discussion on a new Ireland to ensure that this place flourishes, that it is a place where people have the opportunity to stay, to live and to thrive. So I have sent that proposal through to Theresa, Mayor. Thank you.
Just Hamley seconded.
Second, right. Okay, thank you. Councillor Harkin, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, very happy to support the motion. I thought that the comments of the new Taoiseach, Simon Harris, were absolutely disgraceful, but I wasn't surprised. I mean, this is Fianna Gael, a party that has, done tremendous damage to working class people for many, many decades, along with their main partners, Fianna Fáil. And I would like to hope in the next round of elections we see both those parties kicked out. They've had 100 years of rule. And for the vast majority of people, their legacy, the former Taoiseach's legacy, Leo Varadkar and Simon Harris's, is a legacy of a housing crisis, impoverishment, breaking Irish neutrality, and more aligning Ireland with the goals of NATO. So I think for a lot of reasons, this is alienating not just the young people, but alienating for many, many people who have an aspiration for a new and different Ireland. I'll also say that I'm fully in favour of a Citizens' Assembly, but it's also clear that we're not going to build a new Ireland based on relying on the support of people like Joe Biden, because what Joe Biden is interested in doing is offering the carrot, which is investment in the Ireland, but in return, what Joe Biden and others like him want is a quiet Ireland who accepts American imperialism, who doesn't lift, an Ireland that refuses to sanction Israel, and an Ireland that refuses to challenge American corporations and their tax haven economy in the south. So I'm very in favour of a citizens' assembly. I'm in favour of a united Ireland. I'm in favour of a united socialist Ireland. But I think we have to be clear that it's going to be the people of Ireland, not corporations, not Joe Biden, and not Fianna Fáil or Fianna Gael, that actually develop a new Ireland that empowers everyone and expands democracy and equality.
Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I, along with other councillors, attended a meeting earlier this week on behalf of this council, where there was representatives from the Taoiseach's office giving us a presentation on the Shared Island Unit and their work across the island, but particularly in the city and district. And when they were giving us that presentation, they told us that the new Taoiseach was well aware of the Shared Island and the benefits that it offered right across the island. It's a pity that he's not aware of what sharing the island actually means. And I think the remarks by the Taoiseach are completely out of touch. I don't believe that they are reflective of the views of a majority of people in Southern Ireland. I think people need to see a new Citizens' Assembly set up to talk about the reunification of this country, and anything that we can do to bring that one step forward, I think we should do. So the SDLP are happy to support the proposal before us, and we acknowledge, I suppose, the tone of which the new Taoiseach has spoken, and I don't believe that it is reflective of a majority of the people on this island. And the sooner that the Taoiseach starts speaking for and with the people on the island, the better, in our view. Thank you.
Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. I'll not be supporting the motion. In fact, I believe the Taoiseach hit the nail on the head. And I'm speaking from the concept of a 24-year-old and a 21-year-old in my house, and his comments about that they would know other places far better than they would places on the island are absolutely on the mark as far as the young people that I know, particularly those living in my own house. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman McMorris.
Mayor, thanks for letting me in. I'm not really going to speak much on it. I'm just going to let you know that I'll be opposing the proposal as well. Thank you.
No problem. And just before, we finalise this motion, I just want to make it clear that my chairperson's business regarding the Taoiseach's remarks about his familiarity with Berlin and Paris and this motion are two separate motions. So it will be two separate letters because it is two separate issues. Okay. So I have no more speakers on that proposal. There is a difference of opinion. Do we need to take a vote on this, or are we just abstaining? Are the unionist parties abstaining or against? Right, John, we take a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Cook. That's apologies. Alderman Guy.
Against.
Alderman Hussey.
Against.
Alderman McMorris.
Against.
Alderman Middleton.
Against.
Alderman Wilkinson.
Against.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Or.
Councillor Lillian Barr.
Oh.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs. Councillor Clark. Councillor Cusick.
Or.
Councillor Deany. Councillor Devine. Councillor Donnelly.
Or.
Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
Or.
Councillor Fleming. Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin. Councillor Heaney. Councillor Hutton. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard. Councillor Logue.
Or.
Councillor McDade.
Or.
Councillor McGinley. Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Norris. No. Councillor O'Farrell.
John.
Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. Councillor Neelis.
Ta.
Thank you, members. Mayor, I've recorded 29 for, 5 against, no abstentions, so the proposal passes.
Okay. Thank you. And the next chairperson's business was Sandra.
Good morning, Mayor, and thank you for allowing me to raise this issue today. I want to send a message of support and solidarity to the families of the Stardust tragedy of 1981. My thoughts are with the survivors and the families of those who lost their lives in this tragedy, especially today the family and friends of Susan Morgan from Derry. They have campaigned tirelessly for over 40 years for truth and justice. Their determination and desire that they have shown has been nothing short of inspirational. Last week's verdict confirmed what survivors and victims' families have always known, that this has been a long and heartbreaking road, that they have overcome so much. They had to fight until 2019 to get a second inquest, and they had to continue to fight the state every day until the inquest started. They had to fight to ensure that the resources were in place so that every family could participate in the inquest and get access to justice. They had to fight for the jurors to have their income protected and to be selected in a transparent way as they would in the court system. For this remarkable resilience and resolve, we salute them. The 48 young lives that were taken in the Stardust tragedy will be forever missed by those that love them. Now each family has the comfort of knowing the truth of the night and why their loved one died. Yesterday, the Taoiseach made a full state apology to the victims, families and survivors. This apology, while welcome, has been long coming. This inquest and apology has taken the victims out of the flames, out of the darkness, and brought them back into the sunshine and the light. We in Derry know more than most the journey the Stardust families have been on for truth and justice, and I pay tribute to the Bloody Sunday Trust for the support that they have given the families. And Mayor, finally, I thank you for granting the request that we work with the Bloody Sunday Trust to arrange a civic reception to mark this occasion. Gurmagad.
Thank you, Sandra. Nobody? Okay. Fergal?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to take this opportunity to make members and council officers aware of a survey that has been conducted by Professor Caroline McMullen and her team at Dublin City University into how public safety communication and messaging to border communities during an emergency or crisis can be more effective. The survey, which is anonymous, takes about 10 minutes to complete online and examines how and from which sources border communities access safety messaging and the preferred reasons for their trust in a particular source. From the analysis of the data that will be gathered, it will determine whether good practice is currently met and what changes are appropriate to meet the current and future needs of border communities on the island of Ireland. The survey and research is funded under the All-Island Disaster Risk Reduction Programme, and I would respectfully ask the Chief Executive if he can consider how this council can get involved with the survey, for example, promoting it through the respective committees, local growth partnerships or any other relative partners. And if council officers would like to link in with Professor McMullen and her work, I'd be pleased to facilitate this. For my act,
Thank you, Fergal. Going to bring in now Councillor Harkin, but before I do so, I just want to welcome those who have come onto the public gallery. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. And if Teresa can just put the proposal up, that would be the one about the arrest of the BDS activist. Thank you, Mayor. Look, Saturday was a very significant global day of action for an end to the Gaza genocide that unfortunately continues, and the number of dead continues to mount. Starvation still stalks Gaza, and unfortunately, the great powers, even though they've made weak calls for a ceasefire, continue to fully arm and back the apartheid state's genocidal rampage inside Gaza. And we held a very successful rally here in Derry. There was a massive one in Dublin. And in Derry, in addition, after the rally, a number of Palestine Solidarity activists engaged in a peaceful, planned BDS action at a local store. It was Home Bargains, a store that we've had BDS actions at before and whom in the past have taken Israeli products off their shelves. And unfortunately, the PSNI turned up at this particular action and they harassed the BDS activists. And then further to that, another PSNI body turned up and proceeded then to detain and arrest BDS activists. And I think that this is unacceptable in our council area. Our council supports BDS. We have encouraged employers, organisations and residents across the district to boycott Israeli goods. And what BDS activists, including Councillor Gary Donnelly, who was one of them, one of the people arrested, were doing on Saturday, was acting on that. And as council knows, many people across our district are frustrated that the council hasn't been able to do more when it comes to BDS. And that's why these BDS actions are very, very, very important. I think it's unacceptable that BDS activists would be harassed, detained, arrested, have their phones removed. And what this seems to me to be is an attempt to have a chilling impact on the Palestine Solidarity movement. We know that the British government is trying to criminalise Palestine Solidarity. They're trying to criminalise BDS through the use of legislation. We as a council are in full opposition to that. I think we need to make a clear declaration of support for the Palestine Solidarity activists who were detained and arrested. I think we have to demand from the PSNI a clarification as to why this happened. We also have to call for the immediate dropping of the charges, all of the charges that have been made against BDS activists. I think it's unacceptable that when a genocide is happening and the police are complaining about a lack of resources, that they're using their resources to intimidate and harass Palestine Solidarity activists who are doing the right thing, and they were doing it in a peaceful manner, and not because that is the way the BDS campaign operates. So I hope council will join us in supporting this and get that clarification from the PSNI, and also send a message that we won't tolerate this kind of harassment of Palestine Solidarity in our district. Thank you, Mayor.
Sean, have you a seconder for that proposal? Thank you.
Just to mention that Teresa's trying to get the totality of the motion on the screen. Isn't that correct, Teresa?
Folks, given it's quite a long motion, I'm going to let people have a short few minutes to read it. Okay. Right, folks, are we all okay now? Yep, yep. Christopher?
Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Harkin for bringing the proposal and bringing the matter to attention of council. I know council in the past, we've had, as a council corporate, and I know all of us, the majority of us as individual parties and independents have been meeting with the BDS movement. We've had meetings with one of the founders of BDS, Omar Berguti, and the fundamental principle throughout BDS and the BDS campaign is that it's conducted in a respectful way, in a peaceful way, and it's and in a lawful way. So, and that should be something that this council, it's only right to emphasise, is that all actions in relation to BDS shouldn't be done in an intimidatory way. It shouldn't make anybody feel uncomfortable, and it shouldn't be done. The focus of the BDS movement is to support the Palestinian people, and anything that's taking the focus away from the Palestinian people and the plight of the people of Gaza at this particular time isn't helpful at all. So our focus in relation to supporting the Palestinian people is to ensure that there's an immediate ceasefire right now, that there's humanitarian aid that is granted, and that we see an end to the genocide and the famine. So that's from our party's perspective, that's where our focus is. And if there's any actions that's taking place in our city and district, whether it's by the PSNI or any other body, that's distracting people's attention away from where it needs to be, needs to stop. So if this motion goes some way to do that, they reinforce the fact that the BDS movement, the BDS campaign is peaceful, and it reinforces people's minds around what actions they can take to support the BDS campaign, then we're supportive of it. But I suppose when I say we're supportive of it, I wasn't there on Saturday. I was involved because there's a wide array of solidarity actions that are taking place on an almost daily basis within the city and district. I'm not aware of what happened, what the rest were in connection of, but if what we're being told is that it's simply because it was by taking part in a BDS campaign or being involved in activism to support the Palestinian people, and that's wrong. But so based on the limited information that I have, we're content to support the motion. But I'm saying that with a caveat is that we don't know what happened on Saturday. We don't know. But if I'm taking Councillor Harkin at face value, if it's in relation to activism and being part of that peaceful movement, lawful movement, then we would join the call and ask for the PSNI to drop any charges. So on that regard, we're content to support the motion.
Any other speakers? Right, Alderman McMorris and then Alderman Gay.
Mayor, just as Councillor Jackson just said, I was away at the weekend, so I wasn't aware of the incident or the specific details of what happened. So therefore, I don't think it is privy of us to make any comment on it. And just to say that if there is an investigation by the police, that they should be allowed to carry out their investigation. But on that basis, we won't be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mayor. Pretty much in the same vein as the previous two speakers. I'm unaware of a protest was being held in Free Dairy Corner, if I'm right, on the day. did the protest end at Free Dairy Corner and that was it? Or were there arrests made after the protest there? Or were there arrests made in conjunction with an incident which happened at a local supermarket? And I would just like to ask, on that incident, were the items that were removed from the shelf, were they taken out of the store or just left off the shelf? If anybody could fill me in on that, I would be grateful. But
I can't comment. I wasn't there, so I really don't know.
yeah,
I don't know if there are viable questions at this point, but
all or not, Mayor, we will be supporting it.
all right, okay, I'll just leave it for a minute and let people digest your questions. I have Councillor Donnelly and then Councillor Tierney.
Carnmarket Chair, and I think I should declare an interest, but I'll just want to clarify some things. The history of this type of action has been happening for over 20 years. I have been engaged in this type of activity, as I say, at least 20 years with veteran activists in the city, including Grady Horgan, Eileen Webster and Mary Nillis. At least 20 years. The people involved in this action was a number of community workers, one of whom is Jewish, elected rep, myself, and an 81-year-old retired lecturer. And we've been doing this consistently now, almost on a weekly basis for the last number of months. There's never been any issues. It's the shops know the drill. In this particular case, people were dressed up in toxic suits. They spoke to the manager beforehand, explained to the manager that it's a bit of theatre, that it's symbolic, that the suits represent the toxicity of the products, and it's put in the contamination bags, it's wrapped with contamination tape, and they're taken to the manager and explain the BDS position and ask the manager, hand a letter, or ask the manager, which he talked to the senior managers and asked them, because of the International Court of Justice ruling, that they shouldn't be selling items that could potentially be from firms that are complicit in what the Israelis are doing. A huge number of PSNI officers arrived at the scene, and the protesters explained to them the drill, what they were doing. They spoke to the manager. That was completed, and as they were leaving the store, a number of very aggressive TSG members of PSNI landed, and that's when things got, the aggressiveness in this case was from the TSG, and they escalated the situation. I'm one of the ones charged and bailed, and I'm actually relishing getting a chance to go into court and explain this, because the whole place is covered in CCTV and it was filmed. I filmed it on my phone, which was then confiscated by the police. That's what happened on the day. And as I say, there's a history in this city of over 20 years of people doing this type of activity. It's been happening on numerous occasions over the last months, and there hasn't been. And anybody involved in that is told and agrees that if there's any confrontation, do not engage if people are aggressive towards them. Thank you.
No bother, and I think that answers questions that you had. And Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm glad to see that we have got a proposal before us. I'm glad that Councillor Donnelly has spoken before me and been given an opportunity to explain what happened on the day from his point of view, because I think that will help inform where people are at with this. As a council, we are and have several times committed to the BDS movement, and I think that's important. And as a party, we are equally committed, and like others across this chamber, I and other members of the party met with Omar Barghouti at the beginning of the year when he was in the city, one of the founders of the BDS movement, to have that discussion to see what actions that we could take here that would help and promote the BDS movement. I think all protests, in my view, should be peaceful. And I think that protesters in particular need to remember that. And I'm not insinuating that this one wasn't, but I think we have to bear in mind that the staff in this particular shop are local people. And, you know, listening to Councillor Donnelly, I don't know how they would have felt when they seen people coming in these toxic type suits. But I think we need to bear in mind that as well. But the overriding, I suppose, position of the protesters, Councillor Donnelly has outlined, is to make that theatre type scenario where people actually pay attention to what's going on and removing the products in that way. Assuming and listening to Councillor Donnelly, this was all done in a peaceful manner. I have no idea. And I've seen videos online before where these protests have taken place in other stores across the city and district. Maybe I'm mistaken there, but I've never known the PSNI to arrive. I've never known a TSG unit to arrive at these protests, and I'm slightly confused as to why they arrived at this one on Saturday. I, again, don't know whether the protesters, and as I'm thinking of this scenario, I'm sure that Councillor Donnelly will have his own answer, but I don't know whether the protesters, if it was heavy-handed, as Councillor Donnelly has outlined, have made a complaint to the police ombudsman, which I think that they should, and I think that this council should encourage them to do that, because that's where the PSNI are held to account. I'm sure Councillor Donnelly will have his own views on that and on that process, but I'm giving our views. In relation to the asks that's there, and I'm going to be honest, I'm slightly uncomfortable with becoming involved in an open PSNI investigation. But in the nature of the reasoning for the protest, I think, as Councillor Jackson said, anything that's going to distract from peaceful action across the city and district to support the people of Palestine is only that, and a distraction, and something which isn't needed. We in this council have encouraged people through social media posts and one thing and another to try and follow the BDS movement's policies and their positions. I think to deviate away from that now would not be useful or helpful. So in that vein, we in the SDLP are content to support the proposal at this stage, given the fact that we weren't in attendance, and like others, we're taking the views of people who were, or people who have spoken to people who were there at face value, and we'll, I suppose, see where this travels to, Mayor. But we're happy to support the proposal at this stage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, there could be a difference of opinion on this, so I'm just going to ask for a vote, John, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Guy.
Against.
Alderman Hussey. Yes. Alderman McMorris.
Against.
Alderman Middleton.
Against.
Alderman Montgomery.
Against.
Alderman Wilkinson.
Against.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Or.
Councillor Lillian Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs. Councillor Clark. Councillor Cusick.
Or.
Councillor Deeney. Councillor Devine. Councillor Donnelly.
Abstain.
Sorry. Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy. Councillor Farrell.
Or.
Councillor Fleming.
Tap.
Councillor Gallagher.
Or.
Councillor Harkin.
Or.
Councillor Heaney.
Ta.
Councillor Hutton. Councillor Jackson. Councillor Leonard.
Tap.
Councillor Logue.
Or.
Councillor McDade.
Or.
Councillor McGinley. Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Councillor O'Farrell. Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney. Councillor Neelis. Thank you, members. Mayor, I've recorded 28 for, 6 against, and 1 abstention, so the proposal passes.
Okay, Councillor Harkin, now I'm going to give you 2 items that you wanted to raise. So the next one is the Flotilla. And again, while we get it up on the screen, given the length of it, I'm going to give members 5 minutes just to read it. Okay.
Can I go ahead, Mayor? You want me to wait? Yeah, look, I appreciate,
Seconder for 2 as well. Can I have a seconder?
take the motion as read.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to bring this in today as well. And again, this is something that I think is urgent. People might be aware that there is a Gaza Freedom Flotilla awaiting in a port in Istanbul to leave. There's 3 ships that make up the flotilla, and hundreds of Palestine solidarity activists from all over the world, including John Herson, who is a long-time Palestine solidarity campaigner from Tyrone. And he's made the journey there, and he is communicating with people, if you follow his Twitter or Facebook, and telling people what's happening. And the flotilla has 1 ship filled with 5,500 tons of humanitarian aid for Gaza, and it aims to leave as soon as possible to make its way to Gaza, where there are people desperately awaiting any humanitarian aid that they can get their hands on. Right now, the flotilla is being held up because the United States opposes its departure. Israel obviously opposes its departure, and the German government also opposes its departure. And I think in a week where we've just had a report that stating that the Israeli government has failed to bring any evidence to show that United Nations employees engaged in humanitarian relief in Gaza were involved with Hamas, that led then to hundreds of millions of being withheld. And in a situation where the bombing and the murder and the slaughter of Palestinians continues, and a trickle of aid is getting in, that I think it would be the hope of many people around the world that this flotilla would be able to reach Gaza. So I think it's our duty to support this flotilla. And I think we have to call on anybody that has a role in allowing this flotilla to make its way to Gaza to act. And I think the United States government, we can call on the Biden administration and write to his representative here for the North, Joe Kennedy III, and also to the US ambassador to Ireland, calling on them to guarantee safe passage of the flotilla to Gaza, to end the obstruction of the flotilla's departure from the port in Istanbul, and also to take the next step, which is the crucial step, and end military support for the apartheid state. I think that this will send, if our council votes for this, it'll send a message, a very important message of solidarity to those gathered on the ship, to those people who have supplied the humanitarian aid for the flotilla, and for the people of the world who are watching what's happening. In the past, Israel has attacked flotillas, killed people on the ships, so there is an important element here of danger for the people who are participating. We don't want to see anybody killed. Like the World Central Kitchen workers were killed intentionally by the Israeli state. We don't want to see anybody on this flotilla harmed, and the United States government can play a role in that. Thank you, Mayor.
Christopher?
Well, good, Mayor. And again, thanks to Councillor Hargan for bringing the motion. Picking up on the earlier comments in relation to where the focus needs to be, and the focus needs to be, in an end, the genocide. The focus needs to be on getting adequate humanitarian aid and support under the people of Gaza. And there's any obstructions that are obstructions to aid getting the people that desperately need it need to be removed. And from our perspective, we've been consistent in saying that we will engage with anyone who has influence to get help and get support to the people of Gaza at this minute in time. There's a humanitarian crisis that's been rehearsed every single meeting of this council, the plight of the Palestinian people has been highlighted and raised, and rightly so. And it needs to stop. And if that was happening anywhere else in the world, it wouldn't be up for discussion. There would be there would be open doors. There would be widespread cries for humanitarian aid to be getting to where it's needed, and the people of Palestine deserve that as well. So we fully support the calls for aid. It's absolutely disgraceful that we need to ask or to make those calls. Israel need to end the blockade. They need to end the slaughter of innocent people within Gaza and the West Bank. But they need to end the blockade. They need to end apartheid, and they need to end the genocide, the genocidal actions that they're currently involved in. And anybody that's supporting the Israeli regime in carrying out these war crimes need to stop as well. So in that regard, we're fully supportive of the motion that's in front of us, and thank Councillor Harkin for bringing it. Thanks, Mayor.
Councillor McTade.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Harkin for bringing the motion. I think we fully support the motion within the SLP. We know, we see in TV, we hear the reports, we know that people are being starved to death within Palestine. This is on purpose. This is a tactic that Israel are taking. And I think we need to be doing everything we can to get aid out there. Within Derry and Strabane, the people here have been passionate and vocal about their support for Palestine and for Palestinian solidarity. People are raising money all the time to provide aid packages to Palestine. Some of those aid packages, along with the people bringing them, could be sitting on those ships. And I think that at this stage, I suppose I want to, very clearly in Palestine at the minute, there's babies that can't be fed because their mothers are being so malnourished because they're being starved, they can't produce milk. That's as simple as it is. This isn't about, which side you sit on. This is about pure humanity. There's people there that are dying of starvation and they're being starved to death. In Derry and Strabane, we have activists who are raising money all the time. We had 2 Derry people who completed Ramadan in solidarity with the people of Palestine and raised a lot of money, and that's all going to packages who could be on those ships. And just when I'm on it too, I'm sure people have seen the steps under the bridge in the bay. They're now being locally known as the Palestine steps. They've been painted, and I want to just take an opportunity to find out who owns that land. Is it the council or is it DFC, just to see who DFI, to see who maintains it as well. So just so we can look after, because this is a tourist attraction now, I think, for Derry, because people across this island care about Palestine. Thank you.
Folks, I have no other speakers. So can I just check it that this is a unanimous support? Abstain? Will we take the vote? Both parties abstaining? Yeah, okay. Everybody else for, yes? Yeah. That okay?
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 abstentions, 34.
Right, okay. Thank you very much. So that is the end of Chairperson's business. Now you're going to go on to the confirmation of the open minutes of the meeting of Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Wednesday, the 27th of March, 2024, pages 7 to 32. Proposer and seconder, please. Thank you. Seconder, yeah, thank you. Any matters arising? Alderman Hussey, go ahead. All right, can you put on your mic, please? Just remind people to put on their mic when they're speaking.
Accuracy. Page 13, the County Tyrone Super Cup Northern Ireland Football Tournament. It states here that I said that the Milk Cup would be taking place in County Tyrone in July. It is not taking place in County Tyrone. The Tyrone team are taking part in the Milk Cup. welcome it to County Tyrone if Coleraine wants to give it up.
Okay, that'll be amended. No other matters arising? No, moving on then to the confirmation of the open minutes of the special meeting of Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Monday, the 25th of March, 2024, pages 33 to 46. Again, can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Thank you, Alderman Guy and Sandra, second. Any matters arising? No. Item 9 now, the adoption of the open minutes of the following committees. The Special Health and Community Committee held on Tuesday, the 26th of March, 2024, pages 47 to 54. Can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Thank you. Okay, any matters arising? No. The Monthly Governance and Strategic Planning Committee held on Tuesday, the 9th of April, 2024, pages 55 to 72. Proposer and seconder, please.
Propose, Councillor Henley.
Thank you. Any matters arising? Councillor Donnelly?
Thank you, Chair. I have a number of matters of accuracy in this. One of them is that and this is the video that was up at 1 hour 50 minutes 50 seconds in. Councillor Jackson confirmed that he used the word witch hunt, and I think that's very important, Chair, that that's reflected in the minutes. It had been previously used in confidential, but I think that it needs to be reflected for matters that may or may not arise further down the line. I also think that there's a number of our issues that needs to be recorded here, and again are attributed to Councillor Jackson, where he's quote, "We can't be in a situation where if we don't like a report, we ask for the report to be changed. There has been other reports that the proposer, unquote, that's myself who's talking about, has asked for, that the council have spent tens of thousands, and he doesn't like the outcome of them, and so has asked for another 100,000. That's ridiculous," unquote. Chair, that was a quote from Councillor Jackson, and I think it's very important that it's reflected in the minutes. He stated that, quote, "Councillor Donnelly has announced himself as a whistleblower in relation to a complaint against council. There was a report that was done that cost £30,000. He's not happy with the report because it doesn't contain the information he wants to see. So he's asked council to do another report that could potentially cost another £50,000, unquote. Mayor, I think it's important that the official minutes reflect what was said around this issue, and it's likely to become important within my whistleblowing case and the progress of it, not least because I dispute I dispute the fact that I asked for the report being referred to by Councillor Jackson, and I'm actually on written record to the Chief Executive as rejecting the commissioning of that report / addendum because of the clear, in my opinion, the clear conflict of interest that this has now given rise to. So I think it's important that them comments are contained within the minutes of this. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Donnelly, just for clarity, those quotes were that not in the open minutes, they weren't in confidential.
Chair, apologies. It's GSP 75/24. Apologies for that, Chair. That was yes, and they were in the open.
That's okay.
Apologies.
Right. Okay. Any other matters arising? No. Go on then to
Chair,
the.
that was accuracy, but I do have a number of items on matters arising.
Go ahead, Councillor Donnelly.
Chair. Chair, look, bear with me. I think it's very, very important here. At the GSP Plan Committee, members shot down a proposal I made to give stakeholders an opportunity to comment on the Arlessi planning report before it was finalised. I was asked during that, who are these people? What are these groups? Well, some of them, Chair, watched the committee proceedings and are in the public gallery today. And I'm mindful that participation in the consultation process was anonymised, but the gathering has made no secret of its participation. And I welcome here today representatives of Braham Historical and Environmental Society, River Fahan, anglers, Zero Waste Northwest, and other individuals concerned regarding planning. Chair.
Sorry, councillor, just for my clarity, we're still in governance. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay.
It's about the RLSE and the proposal that had been voted down by this. Chair, these are community groups who were actually called to give evidence at the Public Accounts Committee inquiry into planning in 2022, and their evidence was not only accepted by the inquiry, but is reflected in the findings and recommendations of the Dam and Audit Office and PAC reports. It was stated that allowing stakeholders the opportunity to comment before the planning report was finalised would compromise its independence. Chair, that doesn't stack up. The point was forcefully made at the committee that it is not our planning system, it's the public planning system. So what's the difference between elected representatives commenting on the report and suggesting changes and the stakeholders being afforded the same opportunity? By the logic expressed at the committee, the independence of the report has to be already compromised. I mean, according to the director's report to the committee, members already made comments and sought changes to this report in January 2024, and that's in paragraph 3.1.8. Chair, if that is the case, why would members want to vote against giving stakeholders the same opportunity in the interests of fairness and transparency? As I said, this committee, transparency is a major concern coming out of the review from stakeholders. Bringing this discussion in the open business was the right and proper thing to do. And it would be important for the public to know if any changes were made to the report at the request of members in here. Lastly, Mayor, there was a lot of talk about confusion at the committee, with Councillor Harkin and myself being accused of being the ones who are confused. It is the stakeholders that approach me who are understandably confused, Chair, and some of them are in the public gallery here. Only last week, one stakeholder was advised that the RLSE report would be made available on the council website on the 19th of April 2024. That hasn't happened, Chair, and there's evidence here that was communicated by council. It also seems that members who voted not to share the report with stakeholders for comment are confused, not myself or Councillor Harkin. So let's be clear, this council has created the expectation that the report will be shared with stakeholders for comment before it's finalised. It has committed to this in writing, including on the 27th of September 2023, when the gathering was advised that it would be, quote, provided with a copy of the report for any further comments you may have before it is finalised, unquote. Officers can confirm this, Chair. And along with Councillor Harkin, I raised the expectation of citizens at committee. That report will be shared with stakeholders for comment before it is finalised. For me, these commitments given by this council need to be honoured. I suggest that as the members who voted against sharing this report with the stakeholders for comment are the ones that are confused. Maybe they can now explain to campaign groups and stakeholders from this council area, including the ones sitting in this public gallery, who have been raising concerns about our planners since 2015, why you voted to exclude them from commenting on our RLSE report before it's finalised. Chair, there's also people in this public gallery who've been very badly treated by the Planning Committee, including one family who've been put out of their home, treated like criminals for 6 months, and their home is now in a bad shape because this council ordered them not to continue any work and never ever get back to them. There's serious issues, and this council, if we give commitments or council officers give commitments, they need to stand over it, because it's going to get this stage. And I've outlined, people have been critical of me for not taking part in these exercises, and this is that I don't necessarily have faith in them. When we lose the faith of the public, then what happens then? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Harkin?
Thank you, Mayor. And I also wanted to welcome the campaigners who have had an ongoing interest in this and have been very much at the centre of pushing the council along to try and improve our planning practices with the goal of actually protecting our environment. And they should be very much welcomed into the chamber today. And I'm glad that they're here to hear this discussion. And I agree with Councillor Donnelly's comments. And I just want to underscore a few things so that there's no confusion. According to people who consider themselves stakeholders and who've participated in the review and who've given evidence to it and given proposals, they were told that they would have access to the document in advance of when Councillor Donnelly raised it at a committee meeting. That was something that council officers did of their own volition. So there was a belief that this document would be distributed, and it wasn't. It was held in confidential. Then it was given to councillors to have a discussion of and basically agree with the report and with the recommendations inside it. Fortunately, we were able to discuss that in open business because of the proposal Councillor Donnelly made, and we had a full discussion. But even after that, even though the document was fully discussed here in the chamber, it still wasn't made available to people who'd been promised it well in advance of the committee meeting. So I think that doesn't look good for the council. It just looks like the council doesn't know what it's doing. It looks like the council's not being transparent. It's certainly frustrating for people who have been very much involved in the review process. So look, I think we need to clear up this confusion. I think people are owed an apology for not having received the report. And then I think that there needs to be some accountability, because I think that councillors in the chamber then created more confusion by making it seem like Councillor Donnelly and myself were just being a nuisance when that wasn't the case at all. And look, the last thing I want to say is about the report itself. I said it at the committee meeting, but I want to say it again here. I think that there is a problematic recommendation that's at the centre of the report, which is that the council create an enabling culture rather than a regulatory one when it comes to planning. And I think that is open to interpretation. And look, there can be abuse when it comes to the planning process. There is far too much deregulation when it comes to protection of our environment, when it comes to protection of our rivers, when it comes to protection of our lakes, when it comes to protection of our Loch Ness. Maybe this isn't what people meant by creating an enabling culture, but we're in an environment where the Tories and others have encouraged deregulation for a long time. That can be misinterpreted as it's open season now and you can do whatever you want, and that there's going to be no restrictions put on development or developers, or you can cut corners. And I think that there's a real danger in that by encouraging the idea that for our council to say we're open for business, we have to say that we're creating an enabling culture. So I still oppose that and wouldn't endorse this recommended review as a result of that. And I think that there needs to be more discussion of that, because I think it's very, very problematic. And I know it's one of the main issues that campaigners who participated in the review have with the content of the review.
Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I suppose I think it's important that Councillor Donnelly has raised this issue again, where there was a lengthy discussion at the committee, and I suppose at times a heated discussion at the committee. I think to understand where and why people voted the way they did on Councillor Donnelly's proposal, from our point of view, we very much see this report as independent. Councillor Donnelly suggested when he was speaking there that councillors had an opportunity to change it. Why shouldn't stakeholders? I want to make it clear that at the committee there was no suggestion of any changes to the report. It was said a number of times at the committee that the report is the report, and it was time And I said a number of times that what I wanted to see next was the speedy implementation of the recommendations. And the reason that I want to see the speedy recommendation of the implementation of the recommendations is because I want to see a planning system that is working and that is reflective of the views of everyone who fed into this report. And I thank those who have fed into the report because I think it was incredibly useful. But I think in terms of the report, in our view, the independence of the report is critical in all of this. And that is the reason why we decided that we would not support Councillor Donnelly's proposal at the time. And I have no issue in saying that I was the one at the committee that said that Councillor Donnelly and Councillor Harkin were confused. And I also have no issue in saying now that I'm confused right now, because Councillor Donnelly made a proposal at the committee which asked, as I understand it, and I don't remember it word for word, which asked for an opportunity for stakeholders to feed in comments on the report. Thereabouts. I think that's a fair assumption of the proposal. Now, it actually says in the minutes that the Director for Business and Culture added that stakeholders would be invited to comment on the report. If that's the case, surely there should have been no need for a vote on Councillor Donnelly's proposal. I was not of the understanding that that's what was going to happen. I have no issue if that's what's happening. If stakeholders who have given up their time to try and feed in to make the planning system better are having an opportunity to feed into the report, that's grand. I have no issue with it and in many ways welcome it. But from here on, I think we should no longer refer to this review as the independent planning review, because it's no longer independent in my view. I know people may disagree with that, but that's my view, because as Councillor Donnelly outlined during the accuracy part, Councillor Jackson stated that the review is the review, and you can't keep asking for a different result when you don't like the first one. So there was never any indication in my memory, and I will look back at the YouTube video, that it was pointed out at any stage that there was going to be an opportunity for people to feed on it. Because if that was already there, and it was already happening, there would have been no need for Councillor Donnelly's proposal, and I certainly wouldn't have voted against it. We in the SDLP voted against it because we wanted to protect the independence of that report, and we wanted to see the speedy implementation of it. Now, that is where we were at, leaving the committee. I think, I could be wrong and I'll let others speak for themselves, I think others were probably on the same page. I'm now concerned that from the committee until today, something has changed. Because it was not, in my view, made clear that there was going to be an opportunity for people to feed on and change this report. So if that's the case, and as I said, Mayor, I will look back at the YouTube video and I will come back to it. But if that's the case, then something has changed between the committee and now. And I would like to know how and who decided it was going to change. Because it was made very clear that the ratification of this paper would be today. It was my understanding that what was going to happen next was stakeholders would be posted out a copy of the report, and it would also be posted on the council website, full stop. And then we would move to the implementation process. There was no mention of any feedback. If that's what's going to happen, the SDLP will not stand in its way. We welcome that. We thank the people who are here today in the public gallery for coming. We thank them for their contribution to the report. There is confusion. There definitely is confusion. And I would like to know what happened, because this doesn't make any sense. And I would like to know one specific question. If there was always the intention to allow stakeholders to feed in after the report was adopted by this council, if there was always an opportunity for stakeholders to feed in, why did we have to take a vote on a proposal from Councillor Donnelly that asked for an opportunity for stakeholders to feed in? Because it doesn't make sense to me. Thank you very much.
Well, Mayor, if members want officers to come in at this point, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, if members want officers to come in at this point, we can. I mean, first of all, I personally wasn't at the committee. So I can't be entirely sure what exactly was said at the committee, other than, through the minutes. But certainly what I can say is it was the intention during the planning working group, in discussion with members, that the final draft report would come before members for ratification, following which it would be sent out to those who contributed. And if there were any further comments for accuracy or for whatever reason, the independent consultants would be afforded an opportunity to take those on board. So what has come before Governance and Strategic Planning Committee is the final draft report. What was discussed at the planning working group was that final draft report would then, as the report has said, be shared publicly on the council's website and be shared with the participants in the review process. If there was what is normal in situations like that is if there's any points of accuracy that participants wish to make, they make them then, and they would be forwarded back to the independent authors of the report, and they may or may not be taken into consideration at that point. That's what was discussed at Planning Working Group. Whether that was accurately reflected in Governance and Strategic Planning Committee or not, I'm not sure, members, but that's the accurate position of the discussion in the Planning Working Group.
Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Mayor. Don't know where to start. Well, it is concerning that there's some people within the chamber, members of council, who don't know the people involved in the report. Now, and it's maybe going back a while, but it's gone back some considerable time. The authors of this report had done a previous report in respect to planning in our city and district, and a lot of the recommendations from that report, it was published prior to COVID. It was just before COVID, and subsequently there was audit office report. When you read an audit office report alongside the previous report and recommendations that were carried out by these particular consultants, they were identical, and the concerns around the planning system and function right across the north that was highlighted as part of the audit office report were reflected as part of the previous work that was carried out by these consultants. On that basis, we asked, and it was our party who made a proposal that we engage with those consultants again. They do another review. They engage with stakeholders, and they do a review of the audit office. On the back of the audit office recommendations, they consider the progress that was made in the recommendations from the previous report. With the sample view, they make our planning system better for everybody, and that was endorsed by everybody in this chamber at the time. From our party's perspective, we played a full part in that review, and we've attended all the meetings, engaged constructively with the consultants, and I thank everybody who took part in that. I know. We, on the back of our PA, we understand the importance of planning. They help our city and district grow. They help our city and district meet the challenges, not least the massive housing crisis that we've got. We can't be in a situation where there's housing associations that are approaching us, telling us that they're desperate, they invest, they deliver housing in our city and district, and they can't get planning. We want to overcome any barriers in relation to that. They ensure that our council is open for business, and that our council are serious about addressing the many challenges that we face in this part of the world. And we make no apologies for that, but there's legal responsibilities as well in relation to our regulatory requirements And there is no suggestion as part of this that there would be any dilution of our legal responsibilities in relation to environmental protections. Absolutely. I think everybody that took part in the review understand and recognizes our responsibility to the environment. But one of the key recommendations was that we do have an enabling. We do look at ways they work with developers. They try and overcome some of the barriers and the constraint and overcome some of the constraints that exist within the planning function. So we want a streamlined system. We want a system, a planning function that works. We want to deliver for people in the city and district. And that's we want a system that everybody has confidence and trust in, and that includes those that are attending the public gallery today and those that made contributions as part of this. I said at governance from our party's perspective that there was elements of the report that we weren't comfortable with. There was elements of the report that we strongly voiced our concerns as part of the workshop, but we respect the independence of the report and that we were willing to look at ways to implement those recommendations, even though we were opposed to them, with if in the interest of improving and trying to support our planning team within our council. We would be open to doing whatever it takes to ensure that the system is improved. So there was no suggestion that we could pick and choose which elements of the report we wanted. There was no suggestion that we could change it. I did make the point that there was parts of it that we had major concerns about. We voiced those concerns, but we respect that the outcome of the report, and we'll work with officers and whoever's involved in the implementation of that will work with them to try and create a system that works for everybody, that helps grow the city and district. They meet the challenges of the people that elect us. They sit in these chambers. So that's from our perspective, and there is a bit of confusion that people felt that we had an opportunity to change it. I think it was very clearly laid out at committee that whilst we didn't agree with it all, there was elements that we respected the recommendations, and we would be working with officers to see the implementation of them. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, look, members, item 10, I'm going to ask members, should we just go directly to that to help us? It is the same issue. So item 10 is the independent planning review of Derry City and Strabane District Council's planning service, page 135 to 138. I do think that the two items are linked. So, yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, members. As we've discussed here today, this report had been considered at Governance and Strategic Planning Committee on the 9th of April, and members had agreed to discuss it again today and to consider it in particular in relation to an addendum providing further clarification in relation to section 2.5 of the report. So members, the report is contained within your pack. And the purpose of the report is to provide members with an update on the independent plan and review of Council's planning service, provide members with a draft at the final draft of the independent review and recommendations of the planning working group, and to seek members' endorsement and approval for the recommendations contained in the review and the proposed implementation of the recommendations. And as John has advised, the working group had agreed that the next steps would be that the report would be published and a copy sent to all of those who had been invited to contribute to it, and their comments would be sent to the consultant for consideration and brought back to council, and that members could consider the comments of the independent consultant at that stage. Members, the background to the report is laid out in section 2 of your report, and in terms of key issues, as we've discussed, members had commissioned the consultant to undertake a support and challenge review of Council's planning service in 2017, and indeed the initiative was led by the member-led planning working group and focused on engaging with stakeholder groups, including elected members, agents and applicants, other interested parties such as environmental groups and the public, statutory consultees, and indeed our council's planning officers. And indeed, members, based on the findings, the consultants made a series of 12 recommendations which they consider will assist council in improving its service and respond to customer needs. And indeed, in addition, they have provided an action plan and monitoring framework to enable council to take the report forward. So, members, in terms of the recommendations, members, the recommendations contained within the report was that members' endorsement was sought for the report and recommendations of the independent review, and that members approved the appointment of Arlosi Planning to support the implementation of the report through an implementation and monitoring framework, and that members approved the distribution of the report to the participants in the review process and on the council website. And members, in terms of section 2.5.2 of your report, this recommendation was brought forward and agreed by the members' planning working group, and that the planning working group advised that they wanted the work to be taken forward in 2 stages, the initial report and then an implementation of the independent recommendations. And at the working group on the 17th of January, members recommended that Arlosi Planning should be retained to advise and assist with stage 2, which is the implementation and monitoring of the report, on the basis of the roadmap to ensure continuity. It was further agreed that this should be reviewed on a 6-monthly basis. Members, if council do agree that today, then a report on costs will be brought back to Governance and Strategic Planning Committee for consideration. But members, alternatively, members could consider undertaking a further procurement exercise to make an appointment in relation to stage 2, or indeed consideration could be given to the work being carried out by officers in-house. So, members, thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen, for that. I'm going to bring on Councillor Donnelly again here at this point.
Chair, can I make a proposal that we don't accept this? And I want to make a proposal that my previous proposal on page 67 is put again before the full council, and I've forwarded a copy of it to Teresa.
A seconder for that, Councillor Donnelly. Thank you. Councillor Donnelly, just for clarity, are you proposing that we don't accept item 10? Or is it the recommendation in the monthly governance? Or is it the both?
No, Chair, I'm recommending that we don't accept item 10, and that I'm submitting the proposal on page 67, which will allow, it's in the board here, which will allow the stakeholder, given that there's such confusion, it will give the option of getting over this barrier and hopefully restore a bit of trust in the process here.
Right. Go ahead, councillor Donnelly, or councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I wasn't at the previous meeting, but I'm a member of planning and the planning committee. And I think that this review is a very important piece of work. That I think that this review, and there was, and it's coming from on high, there was big demands that this review should take place across all the councils. I think that we need to take some sort of maybe confrontation out of this and what's been happening out of this. This isn't about what the content of the review. This is about just the process of the review. In order to carry out this review, it was very, very important that the input of stakeholders was sought and taken on board. And I think that from here and what's taken place, there's just been a slight breakdown in the process that may or may not, right, that people may start making assumptions. Oh, this is this, or that's an agenda, or this is an agenda, or that's an agenda. Instead of just following the process through, we have a draft, and then we bring the stakeholders together, members have come together, review it, have a further input, and then we have a final draft. And that is the process. And whether there's certain parties or individuals in here agree or disagree with the content is for another day. We must fulfill and we must conclude a proper process that allows members and allows stakeholders and the wider community to feel that a proper process took place before we come to the conclusion of a very important document that this council requires to move into the next 10 years for this district.
Okay, councillor Gallagher, we have a proposal now on the floor and the members are considering it. I'm going to allow 5 minutes in this, please. Okay, to recess for 5 to discuss. Yeah. Meeting back to order, okay? Okay, so we have a proposal on the board there that everybody has had a chance to look at and study. So I'm going to ask members' opinions now on that proposal. So can anybody want to, Councillor Tierney?
Thank you, Mayor. And this is a process which I and the SDLP feel is incredibly important that we get right, because of the value that we put on the planning system, but also the value on the opinions of people who have fed under this report. From what I see, from what is before us now, basically is asking for a pause. It's asking just to hold it and allow people to feed in. There is an opportunity if we go ahead and accept the proposals or the recommendations in the paper for people to feed in anyway. So it's very much of a muchness in terms of the recommendations in the report. There are some language in the proposal which I disagree with and would in many ways take issue with, particularly around the high levels of mistrust in the planning service from the public. I don't believe that that's true. And hopefully this report, once it's published, will point that out, that that's not true. Because I think that that's important. I still can't get my head around if the view was that this was going to happen anyway, why we needed this proposal at the committee or why it wasn't made clear. But that's by the by, I suppose, for now. People have come here today. I have received a couple of emails around this particular report. I know that there is public interest in it. There are people in the public gallery and there's others across this district who have a view. As I said at the beginning, it's asking for a pause to allow people to feed in. I'm not against that. I'm slightly uncomfortable with the tampering of the report. And as I said when I last spoke, I think that interferes with its independence. But it's important that people have an opportunity to feed in if that's the line that we were going down anyway. So in that vein, the SDLP are happy to support it, but we in many ways reject the end paragraph, which states that there's high levels of public mistrust in our planning service, because I don't believe that that's true. I can't prove that until the report is published, and I hope that it does prove that when it is published, and maybe then we can move on from this type of negative language around services that this council and the staff within it go about trying to provide in a professional manner on a daily basis. And I want to see the quick and speedy implementation of recommendations of this planning review. And the sooner we get to that point, in my view, the better. But let's have people, give people an opportunity to feed on. Thank you.
Christopher?
Thanks, Mayor. And I suppose I don't agree with what a lot of the statements that are made in the proposal, and for that reason, we won't be supporting it. I'm a bit confused in relation to how you can disagree with something and still vote for it. But I suppose it is useful to remind ourselves that this is a piece of work that's been going on since 2017. And the pressures that people are facing within the city and district are urgent. And I don't think that we can, particularly the 6,000 people that are sitting in housing waiting lists, I don't think it's fair on them. They say that we can afford a pause. And let's review all the discussions that we've been having since 2017. The plan and function of council, some of us take it extremely important, and that's and we want to see any improvements that can be made. We want to see them made as soon as possible. And we wanted to see them made in 2017, and we want to see them made right now. So I'm just, the proposer of this has openly said that he had no intention of taking part in the process because he doesn't trust the process, but he wants us to stall it, to run it again. I just don't see the logic in that. I do think that there is opportunities for us whilst we distribute the report, all those that had taken part, that we invite those people, all those people and groups and organisations to provide feedback and comment on the report. But essentially, the independence of the report isn't going to change. No, and if we start losing that at this stage, it's essentially a worthless exercise. So we won't be supporting the proposal that's in front of us. We want to see improvements to the system implemented as soon as practically possible. We want to be part of that process. We have been part of that process, and we would encourage others to become part of it as well. This, as we said, is only the first stage of this. The next stage is the implementation, and as part of that implementation, engagement with the stakeholders is going to be crucial. So the fact that by approving this report today and requesting further feedback, it doesn't deny people the opportunity to be part of it or raise their voice. It's as part of the implementation phase. We want to move on to that as soon as possible, and as part of that, engagement with stakeholders is going to be key. So that's where we want to get to. That's where we wanted to get to in 2017. It's a disgrace that we've it's unfortunate. It's not. It's disgrace is the wrong word, but it's unfortunate that it's taken so long. But we want to move on now, help make any changes that we can to our planning system, and we're keen to be part of it, and we're keen to be part of it today. So we won't be supporting the proposal that's in front of us. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, any other speakers? Councillor Minnie and then Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair. Just to draw on the debate, I think just to pick up a couple of points by Councillor Jackson. This is the second iteration of this report from November 22. So we had the first iteration from 2017. So it's gone back about a year and a half, essentially, not gone back 5 years in my view. But secondly, I think Councillor Jackson drew a point there, well, I can just remember it completely, but he did say that for stalling this meeting, so may delay social housing applications or delay people waiting on the waiting lists. It won't, in my view. The officers will go on and assess the applications as they come in. Whether this delay, whether this report is implemented next month or 2 months' time, will not delay any of the social housing applications that are currently in the system. That will depend on other factors outside our remit. And that's in assembly level, things like that there. But I don't see any delays about that anyway, but I just wanted to clarify that point. Thank you very much, Chair.
Order, please. Order, please. Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, in terms of housing, we have a response from Gordon Lyons, the Department for Communities Minister, to the motion that this council passed a couple of months ago in regard to a multi-year mass social housing build. And I think the first meeting of the new task force will need to discuss that in depth and figure out what our response is going to be. And there's not a debate about the need to build thousands of social houses to reduce the waiting lists and have affordable homes for people to move into. And I don't think that that's what this debate is really about. Look, there is public distrust for the planning service. That is a given. I mean, that came through in the Public Accounts Committee report. It also came through the Queen's University review. So that's on record. And I think if you actually read into the independent review that we are now debating. You can read it from that as well. So I think that that is important to acknowledge. Look, I'm voting for this motion for the same reasons that I voted for it at the committee, which is that I think that key stakeholders were told that they would have the access to this document before it was ratified and before its contents were implemented. That people were told that, right? And some of those people are sitting in the chamber right now. That was given to them in writing. And if that wasn't the case, they shouldn't have been told that, but they were, right? So I'm worried that we would lose the confidence of key stakeholders who've participated in this process a lot and shaped some of its proposals, because we can't move forward with the implementation of the recommendations without them. And that would be a disaster for the council. So that's why this is another reason why I think that we need to support Councillor Donnelly's motion. And look, yeah, I think we should be fine about being transparent here. I think that this would be give confidence to people who are frustrated at how this is played out, and can clear up some of the confusion as well, because I'm sure everybody wants as many people on board with this as possible, and for us to actually have a planning service that people have confidence in.
Any other comments? Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Chair. And just, I suppose, today's debate has basically put more confusion on myself. I wasn't here when it initially all started or whatever, and I can see the validity in both arguments. So can I just confirm if the proposal goes forward, is it just a temporary stop as in regards to allow the people, the stakeholders that's here to feed in, and that would be done relatively quickly within a month or whatever, and then it just comes back then? Do the independent assessors come back with comments on their feedback, or is that what we're talking about here? Or because I'm kind of a wee bit confused about the whole thing.
I can't answer that, to be honest with you. I can't. I don't believe anybody. I suppose the proposer of the motion might be able to help out.
Look, what I'm asking, Councillor Harkin just put it better than I could have put it. It's bring these people in. It's there. Get their opinions, and if appropriate, so it'll be up to the relevant people to decide if there's going to be a change to that. But it's going through the process of what they were promised. Bring them in and let them have their comments on it. And if something comes out of that that's appropriate, that needs to be changed, then bring it back to the relevant committee or council.
Can I just make another comment just in regards to that? I understand that totally, but is it the perception of the officers that that's what was agreed, that they would be allowed to feed back in, and that would, because they're saying that was supposed to be part of the process, and I just want to clarify, was that the understanding?
Through you, Chair, members, the planning working group had agreed that once the final draft had been considered by members at the committee, that it would be sent out to everyone who participated or who was invited to participate in the process, which was quite a number of stakeholders, and that their comments would be collated and sent back to the consultant who undertook the review, and then the consultant would consider those comments and provide then information back to council for council to consider the comments, and indeed the if you like the independent reviewers' view of the comments within the report, and then members could consider what they wanted to do with that information.
Sorry, Karen, just can I ask, so if the comments went back and the interview, the assessor basically, they says, right, we'll take comments on board, at that stage, can they change the report? Or if we go against this and
I
put
think
through.
that that would be then a matter for elected members to consider. Do they want to finally adopt the report with any changes that were made as a result of the comments that of the people who took part in the stakeholder review?
Right, okay.
Just for clarity, the council have to adopt the draft report first. So that's just for complete clarity.
Right, so we're
we-
adopting the draft report at this
Yeah.
stage and not the complete report?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Alderman Hussey.
Thank you. And the more the debate goes on, I think the more the confusion develops. Because I have just listened, Mayor, to the director explaining to me the process. And the process seems to be what's been asked for here, from what I can see, which I find very confusing. So, you know, where are we at?
Alderman Hussey, see what you're saying, what has been asked for here, what are you referring to? The motion on the board?
The motion, yeah.
Okay, that's just so everybody's clear. Members, please, Karen is just going to clarify further, okay, what was agreed.
Yeah, I think members, from my perspective and my understanding of reading the notice that's before us, and indeed what we have put forward in terms of the process, as officers understand, the key change or the key very slight difference that I can see is that the term "this council" will invite stakeholders to hear their concerns and views, as opposed to the concerns and views being collated and sent to the independent consultant for their consideration. And then they, as the authors of the report, come back to council with their views on what has been consulted on by the stakeholders, so the stakeholder view. So that's, for me, it's only my personal understanding of the wording that's before us. And again, it's a matter for members to decide what they agree in terms of this particular resolution.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Mayor, can I propose an amendment to the proposal that's before us, please?
Have you submitted?
It's not really submitting, Mayor, it's to remove from the word "furthermore" to the word "this." So it would remove "furthermore," given the high levels of public mistrust in our planning service. Just to remove that, because I don't believe it's true.
I third it.
Right, which amendment first? Yeah. Right, folks. Does anybody else want to speak on the amendment before this goes to a vote? Councillor,
Just in relation to the amendment, we feel that it certainly improves the proposals in front of us. So we're content to support the amendment. Still got major issues with the concept of the proposal, but in relation to the amendment, we support the amendment.
okay, right, we're now going to take a vote on the amendment before us. John, please. Should we go through the, is there anybody against the amendment?
I'll tell you why, Chair, this is an attempt to cleanse the whole situation, and this is part of the problem here. If we didn't have mistrust
Right,
in our,
but right, okay.
if we didn't have mistrust in the planning, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So
Okay.
I think it's a very feeble attempt to cleanse the thing.
Okay, so we're going to go to the vote. There is an amendment, and that's councillors and aldermen. That is what we're voting on.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. On the amendment then, members, Alderman Guy.
For.
Alderman Hussey.
Or
Alderman McMorris.
Or
Alderman Middleton.
Or
Alderman Montgomery.
or
Alderman Wilkinson.
Or
Councillor Jason Barr,
Or.
Councillor Lillian Barr,
Or.
Councillor Raymond Barr, Councillor Boggs, Councillor Boyle,
For.
Councillor Clark,
Ta.
Councillor Cusick, Councillor Deany,
Ta.
Councillor Devine, Councillor Donnelly,
Against.
Councillor Alex Duffy,
Ta.
Councillor Sandra Duffy,
Ta.
Councillor Farrell,
For.
Councillor Fleming, Councillor Gallagher,
Abstain.
Councillor Harkin,
Against.
Councillor Heaney,
Ta.
Councillor Hutton,
Ta.
Councillor Jackson,
Uh,
Councillor Leonard,
Ta.
Councillor Logue,
Or.
Councillor McDade, Councillor McGinley,
Ta.
Councillor McHugh, Councillor Mooney, Councillor Murphy,
Ta.
Councillor Norris, Councillor O'Farrell, Councillor Riley, Councillor Tierney, Councillor Neelis.
Ta.
Thank you, members. 2, 3, 6. So, Mayor, there were 33 voting for, 3 against and 1 abstention, so the amendment passes.
We're now going to go to a vote to the sorry. Go ahead.
I know the proposal has been amended, and there's been quite a bit of discussion, but from our perspective, we've embraced this process from day one, and we want to continue to work in the process. We want to ensure that all stakeholders are heard, but no single stakeholder, and I know the word key stakeholder has been used quite a few times. There's no stakeholder that's more important than another, and that's they open this up. Are we going to invite every single body that is engaged in the process with these consultants to come on, they present the council on their views on planning? No, because that was the whole purpose of having independent consultants, was they allow room for conversations, they allow suggested improvements to be made in an open way, where people are free, they voice their views. There was never any instance from day one that there was one group of stakeholders that was going to have more say than others. And this is the approach that seems to be suggested by the proposer. And I'm just going to quote, see, we received earlier this, it was only in March, there was a presentation to the governance committee from NA Water, and it was in relation to challenges, the development in this city and district, and they highlighted figures in relation to planning applications, and there was 28 in 2023 alone. There was 28 housing developments that were refused planning permission for housing development. So that could equate to hundreds, thousands of homes that were refused planning permission. And refusals pending. There's zoned housing land in this council area that has been zoned for housing since before 2000, well, approaching 30 years, and it hasn't been developed. We need a focused approach. They develop zoned land, they deliver housing in this city and district, and that's only one element. There's in relation to the wider economy to create jobs. There's a whole raft of additional benefits and improved planning function a system would bring to the city and district. They suggest that we just continue as is going to have no detriment to the thousands of people on the housing waiting lists. it's something that we simply don't agree with. If we were taking that principle, we would never embark in this process to begin with. We want to see change, and that's been clear from day one. So when we want to see change, we want to see delivery in relation to our zoned land. And for one, we want to see, we can't have land that's zoned for another 30 years undeveloped. And unless we do something different, take a different approach, we're going to continue to have the same results. So the housing waiting list is growing day by day. We want to take action, urgent action, to try and address that. And that's as part, and that's as part of this. And the first step is accepting, is endorsing this report and moving on to the implementation stage. And we want to do that as soon as practically possible. So we will not be supporting the proposal that's in front of us today. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly.
Chair, look, Councillor Jackson at it again. He's just repeated nonsense that had been dismissed by two speakers. He's implying that this, or the people in the gallery, and all we want here is, and the officer has admitted it, this is almost what was promised them. It's not the people in the gallery that's stopping social housing. It's not this report that's stopping social housing, Chair. And if anybody else was coming out with stuff like that, you would have closed them down. Thank you.
Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor. At the committee, when this was discussed, I said that people would have to be careful with their language, and today I said that I was trying to be careful with mine. But I honestly can't believe what I've just heard from Councillor Jackson. I have never heard scaremongering like it in my life. To suggest that if we don't accept this report today, that there'll be no more houses built in Derry and Strabane is complete and utter cobblers. This review was asked for, and he was quite proud of it at the committee and today. This review was asked for in 2017 by Sinn Féin. If that's the case, and there'll be no more houses built, well, why did they ask for this report? Has there not been houses built in Derry and Strabane since 2017? Mayor, I'm still going. So they suggest in an open meeting that people are putting development in danger.
Sir, don't be pointing your...
Sorry, sorry, I beg your pardon, Mayor. That was just an expression. I beg your pardon. They suggest that people are putting housing development in jeopardy across this council district by allowing stakeholders to have an opportunity to feed on their report, which they were going to have an opportunity to do anyway, is for the ferries. And I think it's not right of people to say that. And I think, Mayor, that should... Councillor Jackson should be given a chance to explain what he was talking about, because from what I heard and from what people at this side of the chamber heard, he was suggesting that the planning system is going to grind to a halt after this vote is taken in this year. And that's not true, because it's been working from 2017. The contents of this report will hopefully make it work better, but it won't make it stop. And they suggest that it would, or suggest that it'll stop housing developments in this city district, is unfair and completely untrue.
That's not what I was hearing. So there is a dead voice, a concern about the lack of housing development. But yeah, and we all know...
We all agree with, but it doesn't mean it's going to stop, Mayor, because that's not what you heard. It doesn't mean it's not what I heard.
Well, it's not what I heard. So look, I'm going to bring this to a conclusion. We have a proposal on the board, and I'm going to take it to the vote.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and members. Alderman Guy.
Or.
Alderman Hussey.
Or.
Alderman McMorris.
Or.
Alderman Middleton.
Or.
Alderman Montgomery.
Or.
Alderman Wilkinson.
Or.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Or.
Councillor Lillian Barr.
Or.
Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Boggs. Councillor Boyle.
For.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Cusick,
Or
Councillor Deeney,
Neil.
Councillor Devine,
Neil.
Councillor Donnelly,
Or
Councillor Alex Duffy,
Neil.
Councillor Sandra Duffy,
Neil.
Councillor Farrell,
or
Councillor Fleming,
Neil.
Councillor Gallagher,
Or
Councillor Harkin,
Or
Councillor Heaney,
Neil.
Councillor Hutton,
Neil.
Councillor Jackson,
Neil.
Councillor Leonard,
Neil.
Councillor Logue,
Against.
Councillor McDade,
Or.
Councillor McGinley,
Neil.
Councillor McHugh,
Neil.
Councillor Mooney, Councillor Murphy,
Neil.
Councillor Norris, Councillor O'Farrell,
Neil.
Councillor Riley, Councillor Tierney, Councillor Anelis.
Neil.
Thank you, members. Mayor, I've recorded 24 and 17 against, so the proposal passes.
Okay, members, any other matters arising from the Governance and Strategic Planning Committee held on Tuesday, the 9th of April, 2024, pages 55 to 72? No, moving on. The monthly Planning Committee held on Wednesday, the 10th of April,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I tried to indicate there, and it's GSP 73/24. And it's just about the Ulster University's response regarding student accommodation, in particular HMOs in the city and in the district. So I'm trying to ascertain whether or not any Ulster University official has responded to our request for a meeting to discuss student accommodation in particular. Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. And I don't know if it's in the correspondence, Councillor Harkin, but certainly we've been contacted by the Vice Chancellor's office in respect to that proposal, looking to get dates set up for a meeting and the format of that. So we're liaising with his office at the moment.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Okay. Moving on then to the monthly Planning Committee held on Wednesday, the 10th of April, 2024, pages 73 to 80. Proposer and seconder, please. Thank you. Matters arising? No. Monthly Business and Culture Committee held on Tuesday, the 16th of April, 2024, pages 81 to 100. Proposer and seconder, please. Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. Matters arising? Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to talk specifically about BC 63-24 on page 92 specifically. So during committee, I expressed a desire to see a bit more detail from the report in regards to visitor numbers, ticket sales, revenue, expenses, et cetera, and so far I haven't received any of that. Although it was expressed during committee that that information would be issued to members. So I'd just like to reiterate my desire to see that and just ask for an update, please. Thank you.
Okay, that will be sorted. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. Page 84, item BC 57. During the presentation from Visit Derry, I had noted that over 200 businesses had become members of Visit Derry, and I wondered how many of those were outside the city. Mr. Dunn advised us that it was in single figures. So in fact, what we're talking about is less than 5% of businesses involved with Visit Derry are from outside the city. Yet Visit Derry has a remit on tourism that is supposed to cover the entire council area. I further engaged with Mr. Dunn with regard to why he thought that might be, and basically, I suppose what he said, that membership was obligatory. I think he did say membership was not obligatory. Maybe I should have, I'm not a member of committee, so, you know, whether that's accurate or not. Hopefully more investment to the area would result in more tourism product. And I think, I don't know if members will agree with me, that suggests that there is something extra that council needs to be looking at with regard to that particular answer from the body visitary that we encourage or we ask to promote tourism from. And I wonder if officers could consider the response that we've had from Mr. Dunn on that issue and maybe bring further information to committee as to how they feel that the tourism product can be expanded beyond the city to assist the rural businesses who may wish to become part of Visit Derry and would be encouraged when they could see the benefit of being a member and receiving marketing exposure. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I think member officers will take that on board. No other matters arising? No. The Monthly Environment and Regeneration Committee held on Wednesday, the 17th of April, 2024, pages 101 to 114. Proposer and seconder, please. Thank you. Councillor Norris, yeah. Seconder. Councillor McHugh, thank you. Any matters arising? Go ahead, Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to refer back to a report, ER 1709, which was presented to the ER Committee on March 2020. It pertained to retaining walls and flood damage remedial works, Meeting House Path, Strabane, option appraisal. I just want to refer this with a view to have it revisited and maybe included in the Director's Service Plan for 2024-25. I attended the recent Angling Fair and was approached by members of the local Angling Club and some visitors who were dismayed at the current state of the walkway that once existed along Meeting House Street. On the 12th of March 2020, the above report was presented to Council. This report outlined the result of an investigation carried out by a specialist integrated consultant team. As a result of the investigation, 5 options were presented in the report. As far as I'm aware, the issue wasn't progressed. The stretch of river in question is hugely popular with walkers and anglers. The anglers, in fact, have spent the last few months carrying out repairs to the walkway at their own expense. This brings me to the Derry City and Strabane District Council tourism strategy. The strategy, as one would expect, is very Derry-centric. The report mentions the contrast and baseline between the city, which is relatively developed in terms of tourism product and capacity, and the rural hinterland, which is much less developed. If the report is serious about developing the natural offering mentioned in the report and where it's specified rivers, then here's a golden opportunity to develop a serious natural attraction in Strabane. Over the past couple of years, accommodation availability has increased in Strabane, and a bit more focus in the town could reap dividends. The local angling club should be commended for their concern and enthusiasm, but they should really not be expected to go it alone in this instance. I would propose a further report on this should be brought back to committee or council as soon as possible, or the original report action. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to bring Karen now, just Councillor Barr.
Members, through you, happy to bring a further update report in relation to that issue and where we are currently with those options and proposals. Thank you, Chair.
Any other matters arising? No. The Monthly Health and Community Committee held on Thursday, the 18th of April, 2024, pages 115 to 134. Proposer and seconder, please. Naring, propose, and thank you. Any matters arising? Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, Mayor, it's HC 84/24, and it's about the the education support workers. And I welcome the fact that there is a motion in there backing their campaign for the pay and review. I think that this is, a lot of workers were told if Stormont comes back, we're going to resolve your pay issues. And one group of workers, and they're a very big group of workers, are non-teaching education workers. And I think that there is an enormous level of frustration among the non-teaching staff across the district and across the north. And I think it's very unfair that they're being told right now that there isn't secured funding for a proper pay raise. And it is, I think that their expectations about what a restored Stormont will mean are being let down. And I think it means as well that there's the real possibility now of an escalation of industrial action by the joint trade unions who are representing education support workers. Education support workers' pay is very low. They're under a lot of pressure. And I think that as a council, it's right that we have a motion backing the pay review and calling on the executive and on the minister to ensure that their demands are made. I think we have to go a step further and back their campaign of industrial action. Right now they are working the role, and that's been an ongoing campaign. But the collective message that NIPSA, Unite, GMB and Unison are sending is that they will escalate now to full strike action. And I think it'll be a disaster if the minister, the education minister and the executive allows that to happen. Not only will it be disrespectful to the non-teaching staff, it'll also have an impact on children who are going to school for an education. So I think we have to send a very strong message that the staff have every right to take strike action. And in fact, in many ways, it's the only language these days that government seems to understand. I think that the general strike on the 18th of January had a huge impact on shaping the discussions around a restored assembly. And I think now we have to make sure that that message is sent loud and clear. If people want to get an idea of the level of anger that exists among education support workers, they should come to the May Day rally where they'll be speaking about the fact that they feel they're completely let down. So I have a very brief amendment that I want to add to the recommendation that's included in the document there. If you can just give me a second. Sorry, I just said that. Good stuff. That's right.
have an amendment to that recommendation? Can people just look at it? Can we have a seconder first of all? Yeah, right, okay, Lillian. Teresa, can we get it a wee bit bigger, please? Just highlight the amendment part, Teresa, please. Okay. Thank you, Teresa. Any comments on this this amendment? Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to, obviously, I know Councillor Barr seconded it, but just to put on record our support, we always support the workers' right to strike. Thank you.
Their comments, so I'm taking this as unanimous. Yeah, would that be fair? Okay, folks. No other matters arising from the health and communities? Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, this is HC 88/24, and it's about our commissioning agreement with Advice Services. And I want to say, look, it's been arduous concluding the discussions about funding for our advice services. And I wasn't at the committee meeting, unfortunately, when there was a fuller discussion. But I do want to go on record to pay tribute to our advice providers. I think that they bend over backwards to help people, often people in desperate need. And I think that they've been really stretched over recent years, be it through COVID or the cost of living crisis, which for many people hasn't come to an end. And then there's a few things I want to say about the process. Look, there is a small cut to one organisation, Advice Northwest. And my attitude is I don't think there should be any cuts to any of our advice providers, be that Dove House or the Resource Centre. I think the workers in all them centres right now are doing much needed work and are actually in many ways not being properly valued, not being properly treated. And that needs to change. And based on the discussions that we had with all three of the advice providers, they are very stretched. Their staff are feeling demoralised, and there's just a constant increase in the demand and also in the complexity of the type of help that they're giving out. So I think officers have done everything they can to try to make sure that that any cut is as small as possible. But nevertheless, in today's environment, a cut is a cut, even if it's small. And it has been pointed out to me and to the other advice panel members that we still have a motion on record that says that we won't cut funding for any organisation that's providing advice services. The second thing that's been pointed out to me is that we have found £30,000 for a trial provider and for an advice sector trial provider. So people are a bit kind of confused how we can find that money while then still putting through a cut. And I think that they have a point. Look, and it is not a good situation when some organisations receive a hike and it comes at the expense of others, because I think that eats into the kind of collaboration that we would prefer to see across all of our advice providers. And look, next year it might be different. It might be the other organisations are going to face a cut, and I would oppose that just as much as I would oppose this cut this year. And I think that that's very, very important for us to say. I do think that the advice providers will welcome the fact that we've been able to reach an agreement now, and they'll have the security of the funding going forward. But I do want to add in that there's an additional concern, which is that, as we all know, the DFC's budget hasn't increased for advice providers since 2015. And this in many ways is the main problem, that year on year, that becomes a cut, and it becomes a greater cut during the cost of living crisis. And my concern right now is that the soundings that we're hearing from the DFC minister in regard to the anti-poverty strategy and the expert advice and the recommendations are not good. One of those recommendations is that advice provision be properly funded and increased, because that is a way to ensure that people have access to the benefits that they can access that can lift people out of poverty. So if there isn't a commitment from the minister to actually increase funding for advice services, he is basically rejecting part of all the work that was done by the expert panel on to develop an anti-poverty strategy. And it's not only that's not the only part of the discussion that is of concern to people around the implementation of an anti-poverty strategy. People will be aware that the Communities Committee has asked the Minister to see the document, which Department of Communities officials have put on his desk the minute he got back, the minute he came in the office. So I would like to add, in addition to the recommendation or separate to it, that a small amendment or an additional recommendation, which is that we write to the DFC Minister to ask for clarification on his plans to increase the budget for advice services. And I think that will be important coming from our council because of the discussions that are happening around the anti-poverty strategy right now. Thank you, Mayor.
Have I if you a seconder for that? Okay, thank you. Does anybody want to speak on that proposal? Sandra?
Mayor, I'll just speak briefly because I spoke in committee in relation to our advice services and the huge pressures that they are under, and also the tremendous piece of work that was undertaken by council in terms of looking at the formula, looking at the funding that was available. We understand that the formula is there as the fairest way possible of ensuring that the money meets the need, and the money that we have and the budget follows the client and follows the need. So it was a huge piece of work that we undertook with the current providers of advice services. What we heard very clearly from them was the pressures that they are under. I spoke in committee in relation to the pressures that they're under in terms of COVID, coming out of COVID, cost of living crisis, which is still very much ongoing, and then the pressures they have themselves in retaining staff and staff burnout. Absolutely, we need to be very, very clear around ensuring that there is stability in the sector. We are very clear as well that there is absolutely not enough money coming through the council to ensure that they have the money that they need to provide all the services that they need to provide to very vulnerable people throughout our communities. In terms of the additional funding that we achieve through the rates for pilot services, that shows again and demonstrates the needs that we have out there within our communities that other people are picking up. So hopefully that will be something that we can look at going forward. But absolutely, we need to ensure that the DFC Minister is very clear around the need for increasing the budget in this issue. So I'm more than happy to second that proposal.
No, Councillor Tierney.
Mayor, thank you. And like others, I spoke about this at length at the committee. So I'm not going to hold things up here today. I think everybody who either sits on an advice service provider board or is on the panel, or sometimes both, know that there's just not enough money to go around in terms of advice services. I think that was from the piece of work that we've done with the providers, it came back very, very clear that whilst they're providing the service, they're finding it really, really difficult to maintain the service with the budget that they have been given. I absolutely and wholeheartedly agree with the proposal that is before us. Although I know it's seeking clarification on plans to increase the budget, I think very, very soon the Advice Services Panel need to get round the table with an ask of the DFC Minister in terms of what we need to increase the budget for advice services across the city and district, because it's, you know, it's only then that we're going to see movement. We have seen different correspondence from DFC around funding, and it's always coming back, my department have no budget set. We can't keep listening to that. It's time that they started paying up. And I would like to see very soon an ask of DFC to try and support the advice services providers. But for today, we are more than happy to support the proposal before us. Thank you.
Naireen.
Thank you, Chair, and we also support the proposal in front of us. Anybody, as Brian just said, anybody in the advice panel knows the difficulties and the difficult conversations that we've had recently in order to get to where we are. At the committee, I basically mentioned to you about the one organisation having cuts to their budget. And like, you know, I really do hope that that doesn't lead to any job losses or whatever. And I know it'll have an impact on the services that they provide, which we all agree is sterling, very much needed services within our city and district. So we will be supporting the proposal, and hopefully the minister does come with some money. Thank you.
Okay, if no other speakers in that, so is there any other matters arising? No. Look, we have dealt with item 10, so I'm now going to propose a very short break because I would like to get this meeting concluded today. So, yeah, so I'm proposing 10 minutes, folks, of it. So we're back here by this clock here at 10 to 5. Thank you. Can I have a proposer to go on to confidential, please? Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you.